Hello, and welcome back to Black Mental Health Matters. Our mission here is to encourage open dialogue around mental health among Black communities. I am your host, Micaiah Williams Franklin, and today we have two special guests with us discussing the topic of suicide in adolescents. Just gonna go ahead and add them to the screen. Hello, guys.
Hey,
Hi.
So here we have today, we have Kaylin Strahan. She is the youngest board of Atlanta's, I'm so sorry, the youngest member of Atlanta's Review Board. And she is the author of a book that she published when she was younger called Embrace You. And we also have Roxanne. I'm sorry if I mispronounce your last name. Is it Marion?
yes, it is.
All right, perfect. So, Marion, to begin, would you just mind telling us a bit more of your background, please?
Okay, my background is in education. I used to be a teacher and I used to be a corporate trainer. Um, Currently, I am a speaker and I go around and I speak about mental health in the workplace.
I love that. All right. So, Roxanne, we're just going to get right into the questions to the
Okay.
interview for today. So, my first question that I have for you today is, as an educator and a storyteller, what event or campaign inspired you to reach out and help organizations maintain the mental health and wellness through their employees?
That's a great question. I actually realized looking into this and thinking about this and the fact that 9/11 is 21 years past as of tomorrow. And it started with 9/11. When 9/11 happened, I was a teacher in school. And I remember how chaotic things became because the parents started to come in for their kids and they wanted to put their hands on their children right then. And I can actually juxtapose that with a current event, which was Uvalde. And in Uvalde, Texas, the parents there wanted to put their hands on their kids immediately to know that they were okay, to know that nothing had occurred with them. Um, the sad thing is that all of these events have happened here in America, but with these events happening, we can realize and understand the impact that it's having on our kids. We see that it's having an impact on the parents and on adults because we see how they have reacted. But we're not taking into consideration the impact that it's having on our youth, on our adolescents, that stays with you. And I think there's a big problem when we just kind of go past it. It happened. We might talk about it within the 3 months of it happening, and then we're acting as if that just goes away. And I have a niece who is about 28 years old, and she has three littles. And she told me the day after Uvalde that for the first time at dropping off their kids, all these parents were getting out of the car. All these parents were getting out of the car, hugging their kids. Because that's not normally what they do. Normally, they just let them out and they say goodbye. But obviously, it had an effect on the parents. So if the kids heard about it as well, we need to realize that this is affecting our children. And what are we doing about it? What are we doing about the fact that such events are traumatic to the kids or to adolescents? And are we even speaking about that to them? Speaking about that to them after it happens, maybe later on, a year later? These are traumatic events and we need to address it with our kids.
Yes, yes, yes. I love that answer. You really, really inspire me because once you said 9/11, it really dawned on me that I wasn't even born yet. I
Mm,
literally was born the following November. And the simple fact that it's almost full circle. You come back around and Uvalde happened only a few months ago. And it's
mhm,
almost as if parents are having I wouldn't say necessarily doubts, but parents are definitely more cautious with their children, and they let them know that their life is precious and that they love them, and that's really what matters with the when it comes to the preservation of the minds and the mental health stability of our youth.
mhm.
Kaylin, did you have anything that you wanted to share?
No, I didn't. I really love that answer as well. I know for a fact that it really starts with children. So keeping them around and just building them up is definitely something that parents are now more, more capable of doing with everything that's going on.
Right, 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 right. All right, Roxanne, I got a second question for you today. When training adults, suicide prevention can be seen as trivial or not as important. But in grade school, at least from my experience, suicide prevention is pushed very heavily.
Mhm.
So, what do you believe is one of the major differences that comes with adulthood versus adolescence when pertaining to the advocacy for the prevalence of mental health?
When it comes to adults, I think we're all assuming that we know exactly how to handle situations. That we're assuming that when things go wrong, we know how to handle something traumatic, or we know how to handle something that is emotional for us. We know how to handle things that come along every day, even if it's something little. The problem with that is not everybody has been taught the same way. You could take, for example, even finances. Everybody is expecting once you hit 18 that you know everything about finances, right? You're an adult now. You should know how to manage your finances. That's not true. Everybody doesn't know how to manage their finances, and everyone doesn't know how to manage their mental health. When it comes to adolescents and youth in school, we have come to the place where we understand that we need to teach and train and let kids know things happen and this is how you react to it. And if you react to it this way, you have the ability to get help or assistance or see other people. There was a time when, and I'm aging myself here, there was a time when we didn't even say depression. Depression, what was that word? I believe it just came up. It may have been in the dictionary, but back in the 1990s, 1980s, we didn't talk about depression. We didn't talk about mental health. So there are a group of people who all of a sudden that has become important and we address it with our youth, but we're assuming that adults know about it. That is not the case. They need to be taken into consideration as much as the youth need to be taken into consideration because not everyone has had the opportunities that other people have had. So we have to teach people how to treat themselves. I'm sure you've heard the quote that you teach people how to treat you, you have to teach yourself how to even treat yourself. You need help with things. It's okay to ask.
That was beautiful. That just that simple quote, teach people how to treat you, but then you also have to teach yourself how to treat yourself. Like that is a lot deeper than I think the words are giving it merit. Like
Mm,
it's really, really important to know yourself and to find yourself and to enjoy that journey in finding yourself.
mm,
Um, just just for the benefit, like just for the self benefit, like
mhm. Right,
literally.
right, exactly.
All right. We're just gonna keep it moving. So, what strategy or technique came easily to you, and what seemed to be a challenge for you when advocating for your own wellness as an adolescent?
I will admit what came easy to me was journaling. I loved to write back then. I love to write now. For me, it's easier to get out my emotions, to recognize where I am with my mental health and what is actually triggering certain things, what has become a trauma for me. And even as I journal now, I can reach back to those things that happened when I was younger and see, wow, those things are still with me. And I didn't even address it then. I'm still not addressing it now, and it needs to be addressed. So, with that, I realized that journaling has been good for me. And as an adult, I realized that therapy has been good for me. And if you're younger, you need to know that it's okay to have therapy. There are a group of people who are like, no, and I'm going to be honest, a lot of it is in our community. A lot of people say, no, talk to God. You don't need therapy. All you need to do is pray. I can still pray and get therapy. I can still pray and get therapy, and it's fine. So, journaling was great for me when I was younger. It's great for me now. And what was a challenge for me back then was verbalizing what was actually wrong, because sometimes you just don't have the words. And it's not even just about not having the words, it's about not knowing what is wrong and what is right, what is right, and what is right for someone else may not be right for you. And you need to be able to verbalize that to a parent, to a teacher, to a therapist, to, as we are as adults, to a spouse, to a friend, to a therapist. Let's just go right there again. To anyone in church that you are friends with church, that you are friends with at church. But we need to learn how to verbalize what is going on and don't try to be so professional about it. Like I said, when I was a kid, I didn't know how to verbalize it. As an adult, I find that sometimes I'm trying to be so perfect in my wording that I'll back off from saying something because I'm just like, no, that doesn't sound right. Verbalize how you're feeling. It's okay if it doesn't sound right. You go back and forth. A conversation is someone talking and then you giving your opinion. It's the back and forth. So it's okay. Just make sure that people know what is going on. If you are a youth, talk to someone. And there are special ways that you can actually reach out to people right now, whether you're an adult or whether you're an adolescent. They've put 988 out there. So if you are having struggles with thinking about suicide or need mental health um, you need help with your mental health, you can pick up the phone and dial 988. So we need to get those type of things out there so people know about it.
Yes, yes, yes. I definitely do um, believe that those lifelines, those hotlines, do have certain benefits. Although, just to piggyback off of what you already explained, the importance of knowing that there's someone there to listen, the importance of realizing that it's okay to need someone to listen.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I feel as though um, when it comes to suicide, today being World Suicide Prevention Day, I
Mm-hmm.
feel as though when it comes to suicide prevention, it's not hard to, well, it is very, very hard to come out of your comfort zone and ask for the help that you need. However, once you get out there, I definitely feel as though once you're heard, you not like those thoughts are just gonna click off and go away, but I definitely feel like that's one of the first big steps
Mm-hmm.
towards maintaining the prevalence of your mental health, even as an adolescent too.
Mm-hmm. Right. Right.
All right. Another question that I had today for you, Roxanne, was I understand how hard it can be to cultivate an environment where trust and vulnerability go hand in hand. Um, how did you overcome a situation where you were having trouble helping someone else, whether it be an adolescent or an adult, in the training programs that you have led, see the light in the situation?
I think it's really important that you're open about what has occurred in your life, and that if you can if you can let the person know that they're not alone, but not only by saying, I'm here to talk to you, I understand what you're saying, but let them know what has occurred in your life. You can't just walk. You can't just talk the talk. You have to walk the walk sometimes. And if they're being vulnerable with you and they're trusting you with their experiences or with what they have gone through, I mean, it's fine for me to sit back and say, "Oh, I understand. Yes, that must have been very hard." But when I actually let them know I've had those same experiences, that I too have had mental health problems at work. I've had people who have not listened. I've taken the time to go to human resources and talk to them about what is going on in my life, or asking for FMLA, asking if you need time off. That's not just for a physical situation, that can be for a mental situation or a mental health situation. Um, you have to be willing to put yourself out there. And I'm willing to put myself out there with my stories. But the fact of the matter is, we all have stories. We all have stories. And for some reason or the other, and I know it's a trust issue, we're unwilling to put ourselves out there because we don't want someone to judge us where we are or where we have been. And there's, for instance, when I said whether or not you have a physical issue or a mental issue, I corrected myself because I cannot stand when they say, oh, they're mental, or oh, something's mental about them. That's a mental health issue. So if we open ourselves up to let other people know, I've been there and this is what happened for me. And when I was able to talk to people about this, I was able to get this kind of help. That helped more so than making it generic, like, oh, yes, I see. You probably need to go talk to HR. People can't connect with that. So that's what I I actually take pride in that, in my willingness to share my story with people, that I have had mental health issues that have come into the workplace, and I have reached out for help, and people have been there for me. So I just go back to letting them know that the same can happen for them.
Yes, yes, I 100% agree. Having that ethos and having that background with dealing with your own mental health prevalence. I'm sorry, not prevalence, with your own mental health, um, like just sustaining your own mental health,
Mm-hmm.
is definitely, it does come in handy when you want to extend your own reach and help others outside of just even your basic own community.
Mm-hmm.
I had a thought. Maybe it'll come back to me. Caitlin, did you have anything that you wanted to add?
I did want to, well, I just wanted to say that that was and very amazing how you answered that question. Mental health is just such a huge thing. It's very prevalent now more than ever. And like you stated, years ago, it wasn't really something that was talked about. It wasn't something that you could just get on the phone and have three digits where you could just call and, try to get things smoothed over. So I definitely think that now it's like a huge thing that's just getting bigger and the resources are becoming more accessible to us. And even to not just to the people who require the extra push or the extra motivation, but also the people who just know someone that's in a situation that they may not feel comfortable in coming to others, but just the way that we can just say, oh, okay, here's a three-digit number that you can call. It won't take long. Like, here's something easy that you can do instead of filling out a form or just doing something that may take the motivation out of wanting to receive the necessary help that you
Mm-hmm.
desire. So I truly appreciate what you said, and just to add on to that, knowing that now, and of course because of the day that it is today, that's just amazing that you mentioned that too.
Thank you.
Yes, yes, yes. 100% agree with the both of you. All right, Roxanne. I'm sorry. The last and final question I have for you today is: with COVID-19 creating so many remote and virtual job opportunities, it
Mm-hmm.
has also posed threats to mental health and wellness in the workplace online. What's one tip you'd give to online employees or adolescents seeking education online to maintain the prevalence of mental health, wellness, and suicide prevention?
One thing I would like to say about the remote people working remotely, I wish I had a remote job back in the day. But in all seriousness, you have to be careful with the isolation, because one thing that came out with COVID-19, which was horrendous, COVID-19 altogether, it was a horrendous time going through that pandemic. But what became very clear was that we don't like to be isolated, because all of a sudden it was right in front of our faces, the mental health issues. We were willing to talk about it. We were all in one space. We were isolated together, if you will. We were isolated together. Everybody was isolated, and everybody was talking about how it was affecting their mental health to be isolated. So if you are working remotely, please make sure that you're still making a connection with people. Make sure that you're still having some hands-on time with people. If you were in a workplace already, in that very same workplace, and now you're able to work remotely, there were friends that you built a relationship with. And even if they're not friends per se, they're coworkers who may be in the same position that they're now working remotely. They don't have that connection to anyone else. And maybe they would just like to be able to have a meeting, go out to eat, just like we go to lunch together when we're at work. It's kind of hard when you're working remotely. I personally have thought about the holidays coming up and how wonderful and awesome it is that during the holidays, when you're at work, you have all those, white elephant parties, and you have the gift exchange, and you have, Christmas parties. What about the people who are working remotely? What's going to happen with that? It's going to bring up some feelings. So if you can plan now and think of ways that you can get together with the employees who are working remotely. You employees who are working remotely, think about getting together with other employees who are working remotely, and also include those people who are working remotely. Let them know when the parties are. Let them know that they're invited. Let them know that you're thinking of them, even if you send things to the house. But I implore people who are working remotely, please make sure you get out and about, because it is very easy just to stay at home. I work at home. I take care of my kids. I cook at home. I clean at home. You have to get out. You still have to make sure that you are having contact with the outside world, if you will. And no, it's not enough to just get connected and speak to your spouse who's also at home. You have to get out there, get out there. And I will add, no, it's not enough that you go to those teacher meetings with your kids' teacher. Speak to people who you're friends with. Believe me, it works. I have been isolated before. I had to be at home sick. Imagine I was sick. I had just gotten a divorce, and my cousin had just passed, and I was very close to my cousin, and I stayed isolated. And I lost a whole year. There's a year of my life that I just stayed isolated. Can you imagine losing a whole year, 2 years, because you don't want to get out there and, you know, break the mold, do something new, do something different. Don't just stay isolated.
Yes, that was beautiful because during quarantine, there were so many different things that we weren't allowed to do. But
Mm-hmm.
then again, there were so many things that we were allowed to do. And it was just about finding the balance because isolation, like you did mention, isolation can hit really, really hard when it comes to mental health. So being able to maintain your connection with the outside world when in isolation or in quarantine is definitely eye opener and can definitely help you maintain your mental health.
Right.
All right. Thanks so much, Roxanne. I really appreciate you being with us today. We're just gonna switch on over to Kaylin. So Roxanne, would you mind just muting your mic just one quick second? Thanks so much. And again, feel free to join in if you have anything to add once I ask Kaylin the question, and of course she answers. All right. All right. Hi, Kaylin. How are you doing today?
Hi, I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing well as well.
Well, thank you so much for even inviting me here today. I am so excited.
No problem. I'm actually super excited. This is going really well for my first show. I'm very grateful. All right. So we're just going to hop into the questions for today. So my first question I have for you, what is about your book? So, would you mind telling us a little background about your book? What age were you at when you wrote it, and what was the inspiration for you to write it as? I'm sorry, at such a young age.
Sure. So I participated in the Miss Black USA Talented Teen pageant in 2017, and we needed a platform. And this was the first pageant that I had ever done, ever. So I was looking up YouTube videos, like how to walk, how to do the basic things, because I'm like, I don't know how to do this. And so because I really enjoyed just encouraging people or trying to encourage people and motivating others about just loving themselves 100%, 110%. I was like, okay, this platform would be perfect. So I was asking around some people, two people that are very close to me, people at my church, just really trying to get a feel for what I could do that was really something that I valued and something that really wasn't a platform to me or wasn't a job to me, but something that I could actually just continue to work with without feeling that it was too much or too much to handle. So after talking to very trusted resources and just family members in general, I chose Embrace YOU, and it stands for Embrace Yourself, Embrace Your Origin, and Embrace Your Uniqueness. And then at the bottom, it's like, only you can be you, because that is so true. Like, really, only you can be you. And the pageant went well. I didn't win the entire thing, but I did win the title of Miss Congeniality, which was just so amazing to me because I really didn't know all of that meant at the moment, but then it was full circle when it was over. But because I wanted to keep my platform going, and I didn't want it to end there, because sometimes you end and there's bitter feelings at the end of things when it doesn't go your way. But I'm someone that just feels like if it didn't happen this way, it wasn't supposed to happen this way. So let me just do what I can to try to continue to motivate others and encourage others. So after that, it literally took a week, and I was 16, 17-ish when I wrote the book, and it came out a few years later just due to school and all the things that come with life. But I was really excited to just get it out. I mean, like I said, it took a week to write, and I didn't even tell anyone I was writing it. My mom is a publisher, and she's an editor. That's her business. So I literally came to her room one day and was like, okay, here you go. Here's a book. And she was just like, what? Like, I didn't even know you were writing a book. Like, what are you talking about? Like, my own daughter just wrote a book and set it on my bed or gave it to me in my hand and was like, well, can you edit it? Like, here it is. And I didn't tell anyone, only because I was just writing. Every day I was writing in there. And I was like, okay, I'm going to finish this soon. I'm going to finish it soon, because I didn't give myself a timeline at that moment. I mean, I was still freshman, like second semester, sophomore year. So I'm like, maybe it's not that big. Like, I'm just doing something that I want to do. I mean, I've always been a writer. So it was really something that was close to my heart. And because of the things that were going on at that time, also like societal standards, especially on Black women, I was like, this would be perfect to just get out. And it's everything that I would want to say to someone if I don't have the chance to say it. It's all in words. It's always going to be here. So I feel like this would be the best way to get my values out without actually having a conversation with someone.
Oh my God, Caitlin, that was beautiful. I loved it. Um,
Yeah.
it's just a lot. I have like I was making mental notes as you were saying. So I'm just gonna backtrack to the beginning. I believe you were talking about how uh, you mentioned that you were just 16, 17 years old, and you also you also mentioned that it was your first pageant and that you just needed a platform. But what really is inspiring to me is the simple fact that even after like the pageant, like you realize that you could embark on a journey that's much bigger than yourself. And for that, I really admire you pushing out. I really admire you pushing out the idea for the prevalence of mental health, especially in young Black women. As you said, like societal standards, even just like the pay gap, all of that. It's really hard for a woman out here, and for you to have this book that, well, for you to write this piece of literature to push out the idea for the prevalence of mental health within young Black women is really inspiring to me and my inner child, my little Black girl, of course.
Thank you.
No problem. Roxanne, did you have anything that you wanted to add?
I just wanted to say how amazing it is that you realized that you had to continue the platform, that you didn't just stop right there. And writing a book, awesome. I love the fact that you wrote a book.
Yes, awesome. All right, to keep the ball rolling with the literature-based questions. So you wrote your book at a young age, but now you're in college. Yeah, obviously, yeah. You're in college now. So my second question is, how have you utilized your own advice that you put in your literature, obviously, and if you use any of the advice that you gave other girls on a day-to-day basis?
Sure, yes, 100% I do. The biggest way that I can just continue to practice what I preach is to just embrace me. I mean, it would be so different to tell everyone to do something or to encourage everyone to do something, and I'm not even doing it myself. So, the biggest thing that I do is just embrace myself. And, even for someone like me that is so strong about those aspects of life, as in like peer pressure, suicide, bullying, because those are all topics that I mentioned in my book, it doesn't get easier. I mean, sometimes I look and I'm like, maybe this could be better, or maybe I could have done this, just to change some things. But then I have to calm those thoughts down and just really get in a space where it's like, you preach to embrace yourself, you preach to love yourself, regardless of what anyone says, regardless of societal standards, just regardless, period. Like, just regardless of whatever. And so, just knowing that these are things that I say to others, I try my hardest to make sure that I'm also following the same steps that I even wrote about, a couple of years ago. So, with that being said, also, mentioning that some of the things that I wrote about was self-esteem and peer pressure, things of that nature. I do not take it lightly because, like you stated, I am in college. So it is always someone trying to get in your ear, say something, try to influence you. Well, influence me. I'll just speak on a personal note. Influence me to try to do something that I don't do because I don't drink, I don't smoke. And, based on where I'm at, people kind of look at it like, oh, you think you're better than us? Like, no, ma'am. No, sir. I just hold myself to a different caliber. I hold myself to a different standard. And because of the foundation that my family has laid for me, especially my mom and just the people that came before me, I know that I'm capable of saying that I won't do something or saying that this is a boundary of mine and not overstepping that. Because when you overstep a boundary, I mean, that's almost like saying something and you don't do it. And I really hold it so true to my heart that if you don't have your word, you don't have anything. So I don't want anyone to look at me like, oh, she said she wasn't going to do it, but she did. Or she even wrote about peer pressure and she can't even not be consumed by the peer pressure. So a huge thing that I do to keep me just grounded is just continuing to pray, because temptation is real. It's a huge thing. It's a big thing, and it's just completely here and prevalent now. So just making sure that I keep God first and knowing that these prayers are He's definitely going to hear them. So just to continue to pray those same prayers, and then whatever I need, just ask for it. That's definitely something that I do just to stay on the straight and narrow.
I love that you brought up peer pressure, because with it being suicide prevention, with it being World Suicide Prevention Day, um, I feel like the topic of peer pressure isn't really, peer pressure and bullying isn't really brought up enough as it should be, because people, like, you can get bullied on a micro scale. You can, even the slightest, oh, you don't want to do that, the slightest aspect of coercion is peer pressure. So it's very important to embrace you and to stay true to who you always have been and maintain those boundaries. I actually wanted to add, when I was younger, there was this book that I was given. No, I'm sorry. I bought it at a book fair when I was in elementary school. It was like a guidebook to being it was called The Guidebook to Being a Goddess or something like that, like maintaining, but it was all just like material and physical things. But now that I'm looking back at it, I'm definitely going to want a link to get that book that you wrote, because now, even as an adult, I feel like sometimes I have trouble with even my own boundaries and embracing myself in all spaces. So, yeah, definitely drop that link in the comments before the interview is over today. All right, I'm just gonna roll on over to the third question I have for you today. What accomplishment can you attribute to your journey with mental health as a Black woman most? So either something recent or something that you're proud of from a year ago, just whatever thing that you attribute most to your mental health journey.
Definitely, definitely. I would have to say, and to your point, um, when you were just talking about the peer pressure and, to what I said earlier, I definitely have to say just becoming a better me would have to be the biggest attribute, to my mental health, because I I am I'm so strong about all of these feelings because there was a time where I struggled with everything that I wrote about. Like, I promise you, back in grammar school or when I was younger, it was just so easy to hear someone say something and I just go with it. Like, oh, I don't like your shoes. I'm like, huh, well, they are kind of like old, or I don't know. Like, it would be something so small that I would just continue to replay in my head, and it didn't make any sense as to why someone had so much authority over what I thought about myself when I knew that what they were saying wasn't true. But it's like there's a little part of me that believes that it could be true. And because of those moments in my life, I knew that when I started to actually open up and even write about something, all the topics that I wrote about and actually give it to my mom and she actually published it for me, I knew that I was getting out of the shy stage, or just getting out of the stage in my life where people could push me around or say something and I believe it. So saying that and knowing that I used to be on the other side of things, like I used to be the one that was bullied. I used to be the one that, peer pressure consumed me. So over the years, I just didn't want to be that person anymore. I'm like, I am so strong. I mean, I was born to be a leader. I was born to be a strong Black woman, a strong individual. And my family, my mom, this is who she raised. I couldn't just take it for granted because there are so many younger individuals that go through things that are just unheard of. And because my family just tried their best with me when I was growing up. And I mean, I'm really grateful for my life. Like, I am blessed for my life because I was always supported, still supported. Like, they support me in everything that I do. And it is just so amazing that even then, I felt like, maybe it isn't a good idea to do certain things. Like even writing a book, that wasn't like the cool thing to do, especially in 2017. It was just kind of like, oh, okay, like whatever. Once again, back to one of the points, like someone will always think you're better than them if you're doing something that they may dream to do or something that someone told them that they couldn't accomplish. And that has nothing to do with you, like what other people think. And because of how kids are just so mean sometimes, even when it has nothing to do with you, they make it have something to do with you. So then you started second guessing yourself. You start going back and saying, well, maybe this isn't a good idea. But now, since I am just very confident in who I am, which took years, it did not happen overnight. I can promise you that. I know that just becoming a better me is a journey that I'm still on, but I can definitely and just truthfully say I have definitely grown from where I was a couple of years ago, even a few weeks ago. I continue to grow and just continue to notice things about myself that I can even make better, or just conversations that I have that could just be smoother, or just knowing my limits, my limitations, um, how much I can do in a day. Because even talking about mental health and things, everything goes in that, diet, exercise, just everything goes into how you feel, what you're putting inside of your body, just being a healthy individual all around. So I can honestly say at this point in this moment in my life, I am just blessed and grateful to be here, because it is not where I started. And I am super excited for the journey that I have ahead.
That was beautiful. I just keep saying it. You guys are just so inspiring. And I'm really super appreciative of it. Roxanne, did you want to add anything?
I have to say that I'm so proud of you, both of you. But just the fact that Kaylin, you stated that it was a journey that you continue to be on, but that you did not get this way overnight, that you had to do the work. And I think that's so important for people to hear. It's very important. And I'm just proud of who you all are at such a young age. Again, showing my age, but yes.
Thank you.
We're all healing no matter at what age. It's just about what age you realize that the process has to start. I always say that my whole big thing is we're always healing. We're all healing. Even in situations where I find myself almost hopeless, I always have to realize that with this situation, it's temporary. And with that being said, I'm just gonna go and roll and piggyback over into the next question I have for you, Kaylin, because it's right on track. When things do get rough, what are some coping mechanisms that you use to maintain um, your stress levels and your anxiety levels to the lowest bar?
Definitely. I am a writer, a writer at heart. So I write down, and I know, Roxanne, you had said this earlier. You had started getting into journaling and just really coming into that within yourself. And I completely agree. I am such a planner, a writer. I'm even someone that still takes notes, like actual notes in class. Like, I don't know, I just love to put my hand to work for whatever reason, but I just really write down my emotions, what I'm feeling, even on good days, because I don't want a journal full of bad emotions. Like, I don't want a journal full of sadness. So, even on good days, when it was just, the perfect day, the best day, I'll write it down and just, have a little smiley face at the end, like, oh, today was just such a good day, just so it can balance out. Because I definitely go back and read, what I was going through, to say, like, okay, this is what I was going through that day, but I got through it. I prayed about it. I listened to my gospel music. That's also another very huge thing. If I am going through it or classes are hard, it's just been a very interesting week. I will come in my room so fast and just blast gospel music just because I was raised in a Christian family. My entire family is, churchgoers, have been my entire life. I'm a PK. So that is something that I hold very close to my heart. And I found that over the years it works. Like I continue to do the things that I feel that works for me. And just with the things that I've went through and the things, that just happen to pop up that aren't so positive, listening to gospel music and just getting in that space where I can just, not hear any of the negativity from the world and just really blast whatever gospel song comes on. And right now, it would definitely be Kingdom. I don't know if you all have heard of Maverick City, but oh my goodness, I blast Maverick City's new album, the Kingdom book or whatever it's called, just because it's literally it just has everything that I need, even when I'm not sad or going through it, anxious, depressed, or anything. That is literally such music that just makes my soul calm down. Like, you don't have to be anxious, you don't have to be, going through it. You just have to sit in God's presence and you will be okay. I have a funny story for that. My roommate and one of our friends were literally listening to the Maverick City album yesterday on the TV as we were taking our braids down. And it was just such an amazing moment because we're just looking at each other like, wow, we're really juniors in college, continuing to keep God first and just knowing that although life may be trying at this moment, it's not going to be this way forever. Like you also stated, it's not going to be like this forever. So just knowing that, it's like we just got happier as the song progressed because we're like, oh my goodness, like we both know this song, number one. It's one of my favorite songs on the album. And we're just loving our journey at this moment. And it was just a full circle moment because we were literally at the concert as well. So it was just like, wow, we're really sitting here just enjoying our life at this moment. And it was just a very, very amazing feeling. And another thing I do is run. I run track here. I attend Clark Atlanta University, and I just love to keep my body in shape. And track, or not even track and field, but just running has always been a stress reliever to me. So just getting out there, popping my headphones in, and just going on a little run or just, getting my mind together and making sure I stay fit because I can stay fit and relieve stress at the same time. So I'm like, yes, I will definitely do that. So that's also another big thing that I do just to try to stay calm about everything.
I love that. I love that. I do believe that faith, when pertaining to sustaining a certain amount of mental health or like your peak amount is definitely a big thing. And even if it's not religion, you could, like you said, like you do stuff religiously, like you run and you write and you listen to gospel music. Like all of those things definitely contribute to your mental health, and your physical health and your overall wellness. So that's definitely amazing. Another thing that I wanted to add was, you mentioned that you do journal on both bad days and good days. That's I was just wondering if you put them in the same journal, like the same notebook, or do you have like separate journals for each, not necessarily each mood, but like, because I know that, me personally, I have my own shadow work journal, and then I have my journal that I just write like all my manifestations down and stuff. It's just because on the days that my mental health isn't necessarily at its peak, I do like to separate my bad days from my good days just so I can look back. And I even have like a little lock on my journal just so I can keep all of those negative thoughts and all of those um things that were bothering me at the time, like I did mention before, it was only temporary. Therefore, I like to separate my I don't want to say happy or sad because there's so many different feelings in between the two, but I just do separate them. So I was just wondering if you do use one journal or not.
No, yeah, and that's really interesting that use. I never even thought about using two, honestly, but I do use separate journals, but it doesn't the emotion doesn't play a role in which journal I use on that given day. It's honestly how much I'm writing. So, like, I have a smaller journal and then I have a bigger journal, maybe for the lengthier stories, or if I think that I can tell it in a lengthier way just to not miss any details in the story. But to answer your question, I do, like I said, it's not like based on the emotion. So sometimes it'll be two good stories, three bad ones, five good stories, two bad ones. So, or not bad, but just, positive versus negative emotions that are flowing throughout, whatever I'm writing. But I don't use, different ones based on my emotion, because I do like to scroll through and see, like, okay, it was 3 bad days, but I made it. Like, I made it through this good day. It happened, but it is what it is. I can only learn from the situations now. And I don't know. I think I like doing that only because it's like, life happens, but as long as you just continue to try and keep going, things will get better. And that has definitely been a testimony to me. If I just keep going, just keep, going through the motions. And even when I stop going through the motions and I'm like, okay, let's actually put more effort into it. Let's actually, keep the momentum going. Then I can honestly say, okay, I wrote these stories and this is what happened. But now I'm calm, things have worked out and I can finally stop using, this journal for five negative stories and just come back to it and say, like, okay, now I'll write something. And sometimes I forget to write, the good things. So I'll look back like, did all this happen back to back? But then I'll look in like my notes or something, because I have to put it somewhere, even if it's short, like, oh, someone paid for your coffee today. Even if it's just something very light, something very quick, I'll put it somewhere where I can see a date or something, just so I can say, okay, it wasn't 5 negative days or negative, days full of horrible emotions. I look in my notes like, okay, let me just put that in the little, in the behind the lines on the paper or something, just so I can know, okay, you didn't have a bad week. You had a bad 3 days and then, something good happened. But just making sure that I document everything so I'll know that life continues to go on regardless of the good and the bad days. And like you said, the days that are in between, it continues. And knowing that, I just keep pushing, keep going. And like I said earlier, just having the support from everyone that's around me definitely plays a huge role in that, because I truly do not know where I would be without them too.
Yes, that was beautiful. Roxanne, you mentioned earlier that you do enjoy writing and journaling as an escape as well. Did you have anything that you wanted to add pertaining to your journaling style or how many journals you have?
I will admit that I do have different journals. Um, it's for me, it's just a matter of which one. Like, I have one with hearts that I'm looking at right now, and then I have one with sequins. Which one I see, and now that you ladies talked about it, I do think about it first before I grab which one. But I thought that both of you, what you said about separating the negative from the positive, that's very good, and I'm thinking that I might need to do that.
Nice, nice, nice. All right. So to wrap up the interview with you, Kaylin, today, I have one final question. At a time that you felt your lowest, how were you able to overcome that?
Definitely. I think about my goals. I think about what successes I want to have and what story I want to be able to tell when when I'm older, retire, and all those things. And even when what I want for myself doesn't seem like it's motivating me enough to get up and just do what I need to do. I think about the other people that are rooting for me, the other people that are cheering me on. I don't attend college in the state that I grew up in. So I think about the little girls that are like, oh, okay, like that are so happy to see me when I come back home, and just the people that really look up to me and just look at me as someone that is determined, that's gonna make it, that's, just gonna be a light in everyone's life. And so even when it gets difficult for me, like, I don't have to do this if it's for me. And even when I get in moods like that, I'm like, well, no. My mom is rooting for me. My brother is rooting for me. My two little nephews, they're rooting for me. So it's like, okay, let me get up and let me do this, because I honestly feel like sometimes it's easier to let yourself down, but when you have someone else that's really pouring into you and just, finding every possible solution to help you get to where you want to be in life, get to where you're going, or just helping you succeed in whatever your goal may be, it's a tad bit more difficult to let them down, because they're just imparting so much wisdom and time into their relationship with you. And so, because of that, like I stated, if I'm feeling down or just feeling tired or just drained, and I'm like, maybe for myself, I don't have to today, but for them, I have to right now. That always just helps me to continue to keep going and to actually get out of my bed and just do it. Just like Nike, just do it and continue to have the best attitude I can, to continue to be positive, continue to um, just being myself, and knowing that if you don't do it, who will? If I don't complete it, who will? I truly want to be the first in my family to just do so many things. And how will I do that if I'm not getting up early, or if I'm not staying true to myself? So I'll honestly say, if you can't do it, and anyone who's watching, if you can't, or you don't have the will to do it for yourself in that moment, pick one person, or pick however many people you need that you just absolutely cannot let down, and do it for them. Because I promise you, in the end, not only will you be so happy that you did that and that you just continued your journey, but they will also be so proud and so happy that you did it for them. So that is how I do that when it comes down to um, just making sure I'm on a straight and narrow, just keep going and just doing it.
That was very inspirational and beautiful, actually. I was going to ask either of you if you had anything else to say to the adolescents. Kaylin, I'm pretty sure you got your point across. Roxanne, greatly appreciated, though, of course, 100% always. Roxanne, did you have any final thoughts pertaining to suicide, or anything that you would like to say to adolescents watching or anyone watching?
I do want to say that being someone who has attempted suicide, and and am still here, so was not successful. But there was a time when my sister had to call the police to do a wellness check on me. And I have come to the point, the reason why I don't go there anymore is because I've said, I want to see how the story ends. I want to know what God has for me. What is everything else? And if I'm not here, I won't be able to see it. So I know that there is a lot of people might get a tattoo or wear a necklace with a semicolon, meaning my story isn't over yet or your story isn't over yet. Please remember that. Reach out for whatever help. These ladies have talked about journaling, what you can have in your head and in your mind, what you think about to go on. Think about those other people who will miss you. You know, it's not just about who they will miss. It's about who will you miss. So I just wanted to say that as well. And thank you for giving me this format to speak today.
No, honestly, thank you again for joining today at Black Mental Health Matters, the both of you. I just really appreciate the both of you being here, and I'm just at a loss for words. Your story was very, very touching, and I'm grateful that you are still here. I hope that you are as well.
Yes. Yes.
All
Thank
right.
you.
All right. Thank you guys so much for joining me today. I hope everyone watching enjoyed. So I'm just going to go ahead and close out this interview. Thank you guys again so much for joining.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you again for joining Black Mental Health Matters. Today we discussed suicide prevention, and we were joined by Kaylin Strahan as well as Roxanne Marion. And I just want to thank you, the audience, again for joining this stream, my first stream, with Black Mental Health Matters, for World Suicide Prevention Day. And I will be back soon. Thank you so much for joining. Goodbye.